baby? ¿Qué pasó?
Sup?
Hey. How are you?
I'm great.
Well, awesome.
How are you? I'm drinking beer for once. So
What? Oh, well, you know what?
Yeah.
That's a great segue into welcome everybody to another week of Case Files with Kat
and Ashley.
And so, pray tell, dear friend, what is this beer you were speaking of?
I am drinking a lager beer from Equal Parts. It's one of my favorite beers from there. My favorite way they do it is a slow pour, but you can't do that from a can.
You can't.
The style is called slow pour.
Okay.
And it's some kind of special tap, and it takes away some of the carbonation of the beer. I don't know. To me, I don't know what the scientific term is. So if you guys know, don't attack me. I just know that it tastes better to me, right? It's easier to drink when you do a slow pour. And so, anyways, any beer I think can be done as a slow pour. They have this particular one as a slow pour at the brewery at Equal Parts. It's very good.
Okay, so I'm because I'm not smart in these things. So it's like a tap that is like physically different.
Okay.
So when you know, I mean,
let's just Google this because you know good and well this will be the one time all of the beer experts are listening to an episode and they're like, actually, that's not what it is.
Wrong.
A slow pour taps are a long-standing German technique that softens the beer's carbonation and opens it up its delicate flavors. They take longer to pour, but it's worth the wait. So it's like some kind of tapper.
Okay, so it's like a decanter for beer. It kind of.
Sure.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. You know, and air it out, kind of.
And so I drink lager beer normally, but at Equal Parts, they have it as a slow pour or the regular. And I always get the slow pour, and it's really good. But today I'm just drinking out of the can in my little fancy cup here.
It's like the plastic cups in bathrooms.
Also with me is Kevin 2.0.
I want to hear him. Is he the same?
For you guys who don't know who Kevin or Kevin 2.0 is, it's our screaming goat that's
him.
part of the show. That was him. He likes to make appearances throughout our episodes. So I now have 2.0 here.
Well, I am so excited that I actually learned something new about beer, that there is a slow pour. And
it's really good. I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but I like it. Like I said, it takes out some of the carbonation and it just makes it easier to drink. It's just really good. I like it a lot.
I wouldn't say that beer is hard to drink, ever.
Well, I know. I don't know how to properly explain it, but it's really good.
Smooth. I like it.
Yes, smooth. Smooth is a good word.
Because for wine, if you pour it a certain way, or even when it's in your mouth, to kind of, or scotch, Jason does that all the time. Like, that just sounds disgusting. Don't make that sound. That air, or that lack, it opens up the tastes a little bit more. So that's cool. Okay, well, I learned something a little bit new today. Whoop whoop. So I'm still doing my no beer, but I did have a beer this weekend. Maybe a couple. Because it was just easier. It's just easier. But I am doing the vodka.
I had a brew dog. Finally, Glenn, our one of our longtime listeners who always comments on the page and stuff, he has been recommending this brewery called Brewdog forever and ever. And the only one I could ever find here were IPAs, which we all know that I only drink one IPA. And so I finally found a stout, a Brewdog stout. It was at Beers Looking at You. It's the Jet Black Brewdog. It's an oatmeal stout with vanilla, and it's really good.
Was it a nitro or no?
It is a nitro. Yeah. But it's really good for a nitro, and I really liked it. So I told Glenn right away, and then he proceeded to send me a bunch of pictures of other stouts I should try to find, but I have not been able to find any of those on this side of the pond. So I'm going to keep looking.
Glenn will Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, send them our way. Send them to Ashley. We'll figure out a way because she needs new beers. She does.
Yes, and if any other listeners have beer suggestions, please send them to us because we love finding new beers.
Please. Please, please. Because here in Texas, people are Texas proud and they fill their grocery stores with Texas beer. But every once in a while, we find something from out of state, out of town, and it's delicious. So great. I do love BrewDog. Elvis Juice, Hazy Jane, love it. All right. Yay, BrewDog. Thank you for being a sponsor. Just kidding.
They should be, because they should be sending us beer.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Any brewery out there, we don't discriminate. Any brewery out there, if you'd like to, send some beers our way, I can give you my address.
I love it. All right. So, did you get a chance to see my question of the semana?
I did. My phone had the stupidest response, but that's okay. Yes, I did see it.
Mine isn't great either, but I did see that lots of people did it, and so I'm hoping that they just made it up and made it really funny. Otherwise, we're going to be like,
I should have made it up, but
today's a great time to go to the store, but watch out for people who are pushy. You know what I mean? Like, that
for
wasn't
people
mine. I just made it up.
Who don't know what question of the week is, we always post a question of the week on our social media, and then we love to read people's answers at the end of the show to kind of sum up our episode. Wrap it up. And
we're all, this is like the week before and I guess it's Halloween season officially, like in March.
I know you hate
started.
Spooky season, but I love.
No.
Did you say Halloween started in March?
Yeah.
I love it. Halloween never ends. Halloween season never ends for me.
I don't like spooky season. That needs to retire.
I've also heard it called witchy season, witch season, spooky season.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But I'm just like, it's Halloween. Halloween, the witch is in the air. Have you seen her ghastly, ghostly scare? But beware, don't you dare to even boast, or the witch will come down, grab your hair. That's a song.
You guys didn't know. You guys didn't know what you were in store for when you downloaded this episode today. You're welcome. I'm not going to sing, but that was great. Thank you.
Oh my God, my face just turned really red. All right. Okay, so the question of the week is a predictive text, doohickey, and it says, so your sign, Scorpio, I think you loved my meme that I posted, right? Did you love it?
I did. I love it because one, it uses my mother's name in it because her name is Susan, and two, because I'm a Scorpio.
I was like, I laughed so hard when I saw it. I was like proud of myself for that. All right, so Scorpio, this month is a great time to blank, but watch out for the people who blank.
It said, Scorpio, this month is a great time to see, but watch out for the people who don't want you. That was what mine. That was the most. That's what? Amazing. See? I don't know. It just says, Scorpio, this is a great time to see, but watch out for the people who don't want you. So I guess it's good to have vision. I don't know. Which mine sucks. So, but it says it's a great time to see, but watch out for the people who don't want you.
It's really good, actually, because you are a little blind.
I am very blind. And I'm very blind. So my phone is really just an asshole. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It would be a great time to see if I could see. But I'm just a Scorpio. So,
You're a bitch, Susan. Just be okay with that. All right. Mine was, because that's awesome, but mine, as usual, sucks because my predictive text sucks too. But it says, Libra, this month is a great time to see if you can make a trip to this new place. Not specific, but watch out for the people who are not interested in doing anything about their body odor.
I mean, that's sound advice.
I mean, it is accurate, like all the time. Great time to see this new place. Vague. Watch out for the people who don't wear deodorant.
I agree.
Oh, all right. So that's my vodka.
For those who don't know, Kat's birthday is on October 4th.
Monday.
It will be after we record our next episode. So happy early birthday.
Think for me.
I'm singing on this episode. I'm not drunk enough yet. Maybe by the end of the episode. I'm almost done with my beer and we're not even into your actual story yet. So.
All right. Okay, so tonight has absolutely nothing to do with my...
I'm sorry. Okay.
Has nothing to do with my question of the week. But I have a little bit of tiny trivia, and that does a little bit. So, Ashley, hold on.
Yes.
Let me get to my question here.
Okay.
Do you know how many cults exist in the United States today?
I do not know.
Give us a guess.
15,000.
Ooh, you're actually really close. 10,000, an approximation.
Oh.
It's approximately about 10,000 today, like on this day in 2021. So can you think of some red flags that you might be joining a cult? Like some are obvious, but some may not be.
You're not allowed to see your friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give up all your possessions, money, possessions, all that stuff.
Like the Hare Krishnas.
You have to chant crazy things. Hold hands. I don't know. I don't know. Beyond giving up your possessions and
cutting out family,
dating every woman dating the leader and having his babies. I don't know what else beyond that.
I think there's a theme in the ones that I cover. So, right. So according to Steve Eichel, I believe is how you pronounce his name, a recognized international cult expert and president of the International Cultic Studies Association. Here are some telltale signs that you or a loved one may be involved with a cult. So he says, beware of any kind of pressure. That's probably the single most important advice I can give anyone. Any kind of pressure to make a quick decision about becoming involved in any intensive kind of activity or organization. You must do it now, right now, which kind of reminds me of some like MLM organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, you want to do this right now. You want to get this done right now. You want to be a part of this right now. Don't take it home to think about it. Don't think about it. Just go with your gut. I've been to those conferences. I went with a friend. All right.
I used to sell MLM.
Oh, did you? Yeah, I had a friend who did, and I would always support her, and I appreciated in a lot of ways the self-help of it, like the reading of the great books, reading those powerful writers, those authors, because those are books that everybody reads, right? Malcolm Gladwell and John C. Maxwell and leaders all over the place. But so I can appreciate that. Even books by athletes, it's like it was always encouraged because like you always had to have that feeling of inspiration to do the work. So I can appreciate that, but I'm not a very good salesperson. Okay. So the next thing he says is be wary of any leader who proclaims him or herself as having special powers or special insight, and of course, divinity. And you can remember that one woman I talked about who thought she was like Joan of Arc and Marilyn Monroe. And okay. The next thing he says is the group is closed. So in other words, although there may be outside followers, there's usually the inner circle that follows the leader without question and that maintains a tremendous amount of secrecy. Okay. The group uses deceptive means, typically to recruit new members. And then once recruited, will subject its members to an organized program of thought reform, or what most people refer to as brainwashing. And lastly, oh no. Typically, cults also exploit their members, mostly financially, like you were saying. Within the group, they'll exploit members financially, psychologically, emotionally, and all too often, sexually. Right. Mm. A very important aspect of a cult is the idea that if you leave a cult, horrible things will happen to you. This is important, and it's important to realize that people outside of the cult are potential members, so they're not looked at upon as negatively as people inside the cult who want to then leave the cult. You can think of Scientology, right? Mm-hmm. If somebody's wanting to leave, there's that undue pressure, but everybody else is a potential member. So we're happy, we're great, we're good. And then as soon as you start to have any questions, that's when the punishments start.
Yeah.
So yes, my friend, tonight we are talking about cults. Yay.
Yay.
Kat loves a good cult. It's terrible to say, but it's true. I love to hear about them. I love to learn about them. And this one in particular was a brand new one. So for me, and I feel like I know. Crazy. So I was researching something totally different. And then, I kind of was like, I don't want to talk about that. And then this crossed my screen and I was like, what? This is kind of crazy. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about a cult called the Sullivan Institute. Sounds innocent enough. It even sounds legit, right? The Sullivan Institute. It sounds like it could be anything. Sounds right. Anyway, it was founded in 1957 by a man named Saul B. Newton. And so before I get into the cult, let me cover Mr. Newton for a minute. And things are very hard to find about him. There's a very, so this is straight up Wikipedia, the first two little paragraphs. It's a very short Wikipedia page, but this is the stuff that's repeated over and over and over again. So I think this is the stuff that can be verified because they are like government records. But there's nary a picture to be found. There's just not a lot of unless it has to do with like a court case, there's just not a lot of information on him. Ex-members talking about him and things like that, but it's not like the Children of God leader who had a bunch of pictures, there was lots of video, lots of footage. That was a crazy amount of footage. This was nothing like that. It was a long time before that, but still it was like, not a lot. Okay. So again, this is straight up from Wikipedia. So not a lot of places to go for information on Mr. Saul B. Newton, but these are the tidbits that are repeated over and over and over again. So I will just go ahead and read them verbatim. So Newton's original family name was Cohen. So he was actually born Saul Cohen, but he fancied himself a true thinker like Freud and Newton. So, true thinker. And he was born in St. John, New Brunswick on the 25th of June, 1906, and attended the University of Wisconsin. He later went on to Chicago, where he associated with radical circles at the University of Chicago, becoming a communist and anti-fascist. He served with the Mackenzie Papineau Battalion of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade in the Spanish Civil War. So, just that sentence is just, what? Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. He is old. That's an old man. Spanish Civil War. So he was Saul Bernard Cohen at that time. And then he served with the U.S. Army in World War II. He was drafted into the Army in 1943. So he went on to study psychotherapy after the war, and Newton retained a dual focus on politics and psychology throughout his life. So everything he did had those two things really entwined. In 1957, Newton and his second wife, Dr. Jane Pierce, they met while they were working and studying at the William Allinson White Institute. And they, in 1957, founded the Sullivan Institute for Research in Psychoanalysis in New York. These are very long words, so I have to read them slowly. So they were working at the White Institute, but they left prior to 1957. They left because that there was a death, the death of Harry Stack Sullivan, who is the namesake for their institute. Now, Sullivan, it is said, was I guess the therapist to Newton Cohen, probably at the time. So he would say that he was a patient of Sullivan. That's not confirmed, but that's what he would say. But he was one of the White Institute's founders. So although Newton and Pierce's institute was named after Sullivan, it was widely seen as offering a distorted version of Sullivan's teaching. So this is a little bit important to know. So a tad bit about Sullivan. Much of Harry Sullivan's work centered on understanding interpersonal relationships. And his research became the basis for a field of psychology known as interpersonal psychoanalysis. So Sullivan's interpersonal psychoanalysis suggests that the way people interact with others could provide clues into their mental health, and that mental health disorders may stem from distressing interpersonal interactions. Mm-hmm. So the people that we interact with can affect our own mental health, which I think a lot of us can go, yeah, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was experiencing that today 100%. The people who I was interacting with or had interacted with this week were actually causing me a lot of distress. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. So while I was like, man, that Sullivan sure is right.
You know? And that's how you join a cult.
That's how you do it. But that's not all that. That's not what Newton and Pierce were actually really teaching. So Saul Newton and Dr. Pierce went off and began the Sullivan Institute by sort of bastardizing the actual work of Sullivan. They went way further in their teachings, saying it was the family unit and especially mothers who were the cause of so much pain and anxiety and evils in the world. Because of course, right? I mean, this went even beyond Freud. Tell me about your mother. You know, this was right, Louie?
That was perfect timing.
Happy Gotcha Day, Louie. He's talking to me. Okay, so they isolated their member, and this was like the beginning of that isolation period, right? Like they were therapists, and I'm doing quotes, air quotes, everybody. They were therapists, but you might have had a perfectly happy childhood or not very many bad memories. You're like, oh, this happened or this happened. But then they're going to be like, your mother hated you. She wanted you to die when you had the crew. You know, they were so quick to demonize parents, especially mothers, that it was a very, very swift decline into, okay, we are going to separate you from your family, your friends, from everyone else outside of this group. And so it was very, 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 very quick. They were so quick to dictate the lives of their members that it just really went against. So people at the White Institute, everybody who studied under Sullivan, they were like, "Oh, this group makes us really uncomfortable. This is not what Sullivan taught." Anyway, so, and the Sullivan Institute, it was supposed to be a place to go for your mental health needs. It was staffed by so-called therapists, and it was wrong on so many levels. I mean, first of all, Saul B. Newton wasn't even the founder. He wasn't even like a licensed therapist.
Wow.
He studied, but he didn't like have a master's degree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, sure, he went to school. He took a psychology class, but he didn't get a master's. He didn't even get a master's degree, which is like you can be a counselor at that point. Not a therapist, but a counselor. I don't know what the rules were back in 1957, but that's highly suspect. Anyway, so that alone to me is a huge red flag. He was the lead therapist, and then he would teach other people to become therapists like him.
Seems legit.
So super legit, right? But like any cult leader, incredibly charismatic. He could make you feel like you were the most important person in the room. He could listen to your problems, your secrets, your dreams, and make you feel seen and heard, and like you felt like somebody really cared about you. But then in the next instant or the next day, it could just be brutal. He could say things to you like, "You're a murderer," or like he could just tear you down. And so the desire to be loved and liked and accepted by that inner group of people became very, very strong. So the teachings became more about control of their members than in actually helping any of them. It really wasn't about that. So as cults do, there are like rules, right? And so these are just some of the basic tenets of the cult. All right. Number 1, no monogamy. Bum, ba, bum. You did see Ashley just roll her eyes.
So shocking that that's a rule.
Because, like I said, the family unit was the cause, the root of all evil, right? So the agenda of the leaders was to demonize the typical nuclear family, especially the role of mothers. So members were convinced to leave their spouses, to alienate their parents and outside friends, unless, of course, they needed money. Then you could reach out to them.
So were they not, this isn't one of the cults where they were like encouraged to have children?
I'll get to that.
Because I was curious, because if the cult members were having children, then they would then become evil.
Girl, I'll get to that.
I'm so confused.
Yeah, like if they could just like stick within themselves and die a happy sex addicted cult, like wouldn't that be great? Like just never procreate. All right. So number 2, because of the no.
Oh my God, we're only on number 2. Sorry, I thought we were way past number 2.
Where's Kevin?
I'm sorry. I will be quiet. Sorry. Continue.
Oh God. All right. Vodka. Because the no monogamy rule, number 2, because of the no monogamy rule, members were made to have date books, in quotes, which they had to fill. The rule was at least 1 date a day.
Oh God. Oh God. One relationship gets on my nerves. I can't imagine like a different date every day. Oh my God.
A day. I mean, oh my God. I want to know who. Who are these people? It's like I'm Jerry Seinfeld. What's with these people? I don't understand it. I can't. And
what happened if you didn't go on your date for the day?
You're breaking the rules.
Jesus.
You're breaking the rules, okay? So, and you weren't really allowed to say no. So some members had date books filled up months in advance. In one story, an ex-member was describing parties that included trash can punch. So God only knows what was in that. And people were drunk and high because, the 60s and 70s. And you could literally see someone decide that like you wanted to have sex with them, pick them up like a caveman, take them into the bedroom, a room, whatever, and have sex. Saying no was not an option. Flirting was not necessary. Therapists were allowed, nay, encouraged. Therapists were encouraged to have sex with their patients because, free love, I guess. I mean, nothing wrong with a therapist having sex with a patient, right? No red flags there.
There have not been any red flags at all in this story. It sounds a lot like high school, to be honest.
I don't even know what to do with you tonight. I'm
just saying, jungle, trash can punch, no flirting.
Pick people up. It feels like some kind of weird frat party.
No one being held accountable.
It's like college, I guess. All right. So this was like the free love period of our country, right? I mean, you see it in all. Make love, not war. There's just lots of drugs and sex. I mean, that's just like, that was just happening. And let me say this, Jason totally disagrees with me on this. But I'm no expert. I am no expert, but I was doing research and I was like, oh my God, people really did have a lot of sex back in the day. Lots of open marriages and these cults and just free love. And he was like, Kat, you're doing a story on a sex cult. It's a small swath of people. And I'm like, Jason, what about when people had swinger parties and you would put your keys in a bowl and then you'd have to have sex with somebody who, like that's who you had sex with?
I mean, I don't feel like this is isolated to just the 60s and 70s.
I mean, it probably happened in the 80s until I think probably AIDS probably stymied a little bit of that sort of thing. But I mean, it still happens. And you're doing your hair over here.
I'm sorry. It's bothering me. Anyways, okay.
No, I'm not saying it's just isolated to this, but I think that there was a lot more of like.
I don't think it was as unusual back then.
That's what I'm saying. I guess that's what I'm saying. That people,
I don't think it would have come off as strange to outsiders necessarily.
True.
If they didn't know the other things that were happening, I don't think they would have found it very strange.
Okay. Yes. I'm going to agree with that because, like, when in my early 20s, when I was living, I guess it was mid-20s. I was living in LA at the time, and it was like, oh, hey, there's this swingers thing. And I'm like, that is not my gig, man. But y'all.
There are still swingers clubs in Houston.
Yeah, there's still swingers clubs in Houston.
Very public. Swingers clubs in Houston.
I've heard about
That's a story for another day.
But, okay, if anybody's into that.
And you live in Houston. It's no judgment here.
Hit us up somewhere. And we'll send you that way. I think there's more than one.
I'm sure. I just know of the very public one where you have to there's a lot of requirements to get in. For the men.
I'm not asking any questions. Okay.
I'm just saying. I've seen it, right? Like, it's not like it's hidden. Like, it's public knowledge. It's not like, I have some insider knowledge on it.
So you drive by and it says Swingers Club. Like, like it's like that.
You can probably type in Swinger Club Houston and learn all about it in 5 seconds.
Everyone's at home going,
checking their browser history to see if someone else has been looking it up in their household.
Everybody.
Okay, well, now that we've lost everybody.
I know. Listen, Jason, I was not Googling swingers clubs. Okay.
You guys can blame me.
All right. Rule number 3. All right. So the third, we're just on number 3. Okay.
Yeah.
The third requirement for being a member, you had to live communally. So the men had one apartment that they all shared, and the women had theirs. The leaders had another location for just themselves. So there were 3 locations. This kept people from forming intimate relationships, from getting to this. The term that they used was focused. Don't be focused on any one person, which is why you would have like multiple dates all the time. Having 2 dates a week with the same person, you're getting too focused.
Oh my God.
Wow. Yeah. Right. So this is not to say, though, that no one ever got married. They did. In fact, Mr. Solby Newton himself got married 6 times. The thing is, you had to get permission, and it had to be from Mr. Newton.
But I don't understand how you could find someone you liked enough to get married if you're not allowed to date them more than like once.
Love at first sight.
Oh, okay.
Or a few, like maybe like they had a couple of weeks in a row where they got to see each other,
Oh, they just couldn't see each other like in the same week more than once.
Well, you were supposed to have as many dates with as many different members as possible,
okay.
Right? That even accounted for the children. The children had to have play dates with as many different other children as they possibly could. It was very
like we're
weird.
talking about literal play dates.
Play dates. Yeah. Play dates. But so you'd have to get permission from Newton, but even then you didn't necessarily live with your spouse, because a lot of people were allowed to get married if it was for financial reasons or medical reasons. Like if you needed financial assistance for something, you had to do whatever. But a lot of times it was for the medical insurance, because some people's insurance actually paid for therapy. And guess who they were seeing all the time?
Smart.
Therapist, because the 4th rule was that you had to have therapy, but more importantly, you had to have therapy from a Sullivanian. See how smart they were? That's super smart.
That's very smart.
Super smart. So the members were all largely well-educated, well-off people, mostly Jewish. And the thing was, like, some of the members were sent to the Sullivan Institute by other doctors. That's
interesting.
Doctors. Some, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt. Some of them may not have known what the Sullivan Institute was, but more than likely they did, because Sullivanians were allowed, and prior to the 80s, were encouraged to have jobs. And for a while, they were allowed to date outside the group. And so some of their girlfriends and boyfriends would send them new members. So if someone was a therapist, or if
very
someone...
interesting.
Right? Very smart. Very, 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 very smart. So a girlfriend or a boyfriend, because you were encouraged to date both sexes. So your date book would be filled. So the sexual escapades would be...
Yeah, but
male
then
and
if you
female.
were dating the same sex, wouldn't you be living with them, which would lead to
outside of your house? Yeah, but when you're
okay.
Because at this time, at this time you could have outsiders.
Gotcha.
Okay,
These
so
are a lot of rules.
So many rules. I mean, there was like a chart. I don't know. Actually, it would be posted on a bulletin board who your dates, quote, who your next sex date was with. It would be like on a bulletin board for everybody to see.
So like every date you had to have sex with these people? Like every day you were having sex with someone different? Oh my. God. You left that part out when you said dates.
Dates are fuck dates.
See,
I'm sorry.
Not everyone goes on dates and just has sex. Okay, I'm so sorry. Sorry, I didn't make that connection, Kat.
That's what I'm saying. Like dates, God, you're having to I want to know who these people are because I don't want to have sex every single day. Oh my God! I go, well, if you don't like that person, and how cute are they? No, thank you.
What if they had body odor?
Oh my God, hurt too much. Something body odor.
I don't know. That's crazy to make your members have sex with a different person every day of every week. Men can do that. There was nothing. I was looking, and you know what? I was looking for this specifically for this. I was looking for the time of the month that can women not have sex? Right? So is there a time that, because can I take a week off? But I don't know. Yeah. I didn't find anything about that. All right. So probably not with the way these rules are going.
All right. So they could have jobs. They got other people to send them new members. So their patients had come seeking help with a variety of problems, right? So some may have had a troubled marriage. Someone might have been newly divorced and was trying to raise a daughter alone. One of the most well-known ex-members he was an apartment hunter, not a patient. He saw an ad. I mean, New York City is expensive, right? And he was looking for a roommate. He was from the Midwest. He saw an apartment ad looking for a male roommate. He went, got the apartment, and was living in that apartment with the Sullivanians. He was actually seeing a conventional psychotherapist, and was convinced by the Sullivanians to see a Sullivanian analyst, and he did. And he ended up becoming trained to be one himself and ended up being stuck in the Sullivanian way for 13 years. And it was just because he answered an ad for a roommate. That's crazy shit.
Yeah.
So then after some months of treatment, so you all of a sudden, I will get into this later, but as after another way of becoming a member. So after some months of treatment, the patient would be urged to join a therapy group, invited to rent a West Side apartment with several others, which this one particular man already did, offered to share in a summer house, which was this amazing and Anna Gansett house, and they would go and spend all this time and have a wonderful vacation. They'd have meetings with like-minded friends, and they'd meet lovers. They would be improving their mental health. Everything seemed to be solved at once. You had like-minded people. You had a plethora of lovers. You had friends going all around you. I mean, what could go wrong? I mean, right? There's just all these things, except for the bazillion rules. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Former patients point to the process, more than any socioeconomic or psychological common denominator, as a key factor. What's common is the moment in which they get you, says an ex-member who became an institute-trained therapist himself. A moment of vulnerability in your life, walking into a therapeutic situation with a suspension of distrust because you're in a fragile situation. That's really the hook. And that's, gets me.
Yeah.
That gets me. Gets everybody who's in a vulnerable position, and they prey on that, and it just, ugh. All right, so let's talk about kids. So you can get married with permission. You could also have children with permission. With permission. So there was another caveat. If you wanted to be a mother, so if you were in therapy with, say, one of Selby Newton's wives, because he ended up having 6. So Dr. Pierce eventually left, and there were others after. If you said that you wanted to be a mother, then you had to agree to basically enter what was called a sperm pool.
Well, that sounds fun.
Sounds amazing. And it's not like a... Yes, ma'am. So it's it's not like a pool full of sperm. I mean, that's disgusting. It's not like that. But you had to agree to have sex with lots of men so that paternity would not be known. So I guess the woman would become the sperm pool? Like there'd be so much sperm? Sperm? Okay. All right, okay. I'm done saying that word. But this caused a lot of negative press in later years, and I'll get into that in a second. But when a member did have a child, they were only allowed to see them for maybe an hour or two a day. So as a mother, this is horrifying to me. And at once that the children would reach a certain age, they were sent off to boarding school and would beg to see their stories. They would beg to see their moms, and it's heartbreaking. They were robbed of having that connection to their moms or dads. And to me, that is like just heartbreaking. Yeah. But the kids were ultimately raised by babysitters, and all day long there'd be just this kind of different shifts of babysitters. And that was actually another way that members were introduced to the Sullivan Institute. They answered the ad to be a babysitter, and then they would be brought into the cult itself. And then it would become, they would grow up, and then they'd end up being a part of that whole thing. And then they'd be hiring babysitters too. It was so gross. So as for money and jobs, well, this was probably one of the richest cults that I've studied. In such a short amount of time, they were able to amass properties all over the Northeast area, up to $12 to $13 million.
Oh my God.
Yes. So the members, like I said, were all very well educated. So they were all gainfully employed. They were encouraged to have jobs that they could be paid well. But then they were fined, and they were fined these arbitrary amounts like, hey, you called your therapist too early in the morning, $1,000. Or you know what would be really good for your personal growth? $100,000 to the Institute. Okay. And they would just give it. And it's like, it was good for your random. Nothing seemed to make sense. And people paid, and they just began acquiring buildings and property. There is actually, the buildings are still standing in New York City. You can see them. They're in the Upper West Side. They're still there. And there's still signs of the group having lived there, and very small, but one of them was a theater. They started a politically charged, it was called the Fourth Wall Theater Group, and they owned the theater. That theater still stands, but it's called something else now. It's very strange, because that was another way that they put members to work being in the theater, or B, because people were like, during the 70s, were like, ooh, politically guerrilla theater. That's cool. That's avant-garde. And they would go and be like, do you think that we should be oppressing people? No, you should join our cult. But it wasn't called a cult at that time, right? But so these Sullivanians, as cults do, started to become a bit more radicalized, and nothing quite shows this better than there was an accident. There was a 3 Mile Island accident. I don't know if you've ever heard of this before, but it happened in 1979. The 3 Mile Island accident was a nuclear power station, and it was the most serious accident in the history of the American nuclear power industry. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
Okay, you know about. So it happened in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 4 a.m. on March 28th. And it's Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It was minuscule in the health consequences, but it really shook the nuclear industry in our country.
I'm very sorry. What is your cat doing behind you? What
Oh
is
my
Louis
God.
doing?
I have no idea.
Oh, he stopped as soon as you turned around. It looked like he was trying to knock the rocket off.
He's probably going to knock the rocket off.
Okay,
I need to
continue.
Jason moved it.
Okay. Well, continue.
Okay, I am really sorry, everybody. All right, here we go. Womp, womp, womp. All right, so I'm not going to go into too much about 3 Mile Island, but at that point, it wasn't super dangerous. But some of the Sullivanians, at the time, they were about 500 strong. So, like at the height of their popularity, it was about this time. It was about 400 to 500 strong. But at the time of the accident, 200 or so of them left for Florida. And they were like, peace. They were kind of end of day-ish in that way, right? Like end of day cult, like, oh. So they left and they went to Tampa Bay and they had to lie to their bosses about like leaving. They're like, oh, I have a family member who died. They did not for a second take into consideration that they were all going to be lounging by a pool and to come back tan from their aunt's funeral. Like, did not take that into consideration. But they were a bunch of dum-dums. But the 200 or so that left really began to form this bond. And when they returned, you were either in that inner circle, that inner 200 people who really knew what was what, or you were out of that inner circle and you had to sort of prove yourself worthy to stay in the soul. It created this really crazy mind fuck, right? Like the people who stayed and the people who left, there was a break between them. You're either with us or you're not. And you didn't leave with us, so you're not. And they started to kind of get a little weird about that nuclear accident. And even though it was in Pennsylvania, it was in Harrisburg, which is, I mean, it's not like that far away from New York, but it's far enough away to not be that worried. They started to be really kind of funny about things. They wouldn't eat within a 50-mile radius of the city. They began to monitor what the kids ate. They started to get really crazy about their diet and about the food. They began to just all these little sort of nitpicky things dietary wise. The next big event that sort of sent them off the cliff was at the beginning of the AIDS crisis. So these folks were sleeping with everyone, men and women in their group, out of their group. It was everywhere, but they were encouraged to. So as soon as the AIDS crisis started to really take hold, that rule was, nope, you're not going to have sex with a non-member. They have to live in one of the houses. And you have to take an AIDS test. And so that became a routine thing. Everybody got an AIDS test.
That seems pretty like a good rule, right? Like that you should be getting tested if you're going to have to follow the other rule of having to sleep with.
But I want to say this. Those houses weren't that big. So what are you going to do when there's this 50 members? You know what I mean? Like, how many dates are you going to have? Yeah, that really kind of it cuts into that. You can't be focused on any one member if the dating pool shrinks and shrinks. You know, it's hard to have that same sort of hold. It definitely put them, but they also got really kind of crazy, and it reminds me of the beginning of the pandemic when we didn't know how we could catch COVID, right? We were like washing our groceries and shit. Like they got really kind of crazy about their shoes. It was the AIDS crisis that they were like, you can't walk around in the house with your shoes on. You have to take them off, wipe them down. The dogs, when they would take their dogs out for walks, they would wash their dogs' feet after every walk, because somehow AIDS was like on the ground. Like they didn't really know. Like,
Interesting.
Yeah, and that was at the beginning, right? I mean, everybody was really weird about sweat. People were just weird, right? And so that was they had a lot of they had a lot of really new ideas as to what the actual AIDS crisis was. And I mean, but they were right on it. As soon as it was even a question that it was sex related, they're like, nope, cutting it down, shutting it off, and whatever. Which, when I said that there was a definite at this custody, the children being born, this was the moment. Like, this was the moment things started to really heat up, because in the late 80s there was a very famous case. So this was 1988, 89 that it really came out into the public, but it was a case that was, I think their names are Sprecher, Sprecher, Sprecher versus Sprecher. It was a very publicized case, partially because Dee Agee Sprecher, the daughter of a very famous writer, James Agee, at the time, was a member. And Louis, can you? And her husband was a long time. Mr. Sprecher was a longtime member, 13 years in the cult, and he started to see the holes. He started to see where it was going wrong, and he knew that if he left, he would never get to see his twin daughters again. And there was Mr. Bray had twin daughters. The other one had a son. He wouldn't be able to see, so Sprecher wouldn't be able to see his son, David, again. And David was 6 at the time. And so he knew the only way that he would be able to continue to see him was to go to court and to actually do this. So this is from it was the New York. What's the magazine? Not New York. It's not New York Post. It's not the New Yorker. It's like the New York magazine. I don't know. Oh my gosh, it's totally escaping me. It might be the New York Post. Anyway, okay, so it's a very long story, but I'm just gonna tell you the main part of it was so. Ouch. So Dee Agee, she's still like. She's passed now, but she was a really famous artist. And actually, when I looked her up, there is no mention in her obituary that she was a part of the Sullivanians. Like, there's nothing. And she's still celebrated as an artist. Like, there's nothing, no mention of this. But this was not her first custody battle. She actually lost custody of her older son, James Bollinger, now at the time in 1989 was 20, to her first husband, William, in 1976. Judge Frank Blangiardo ruled that Agee's way of life was indeed her own concern, but that it was not in the best interests of her son. He said, quote, "Undoubtedly, plaintiff loves her son, but spends more time with her therapist." Like, it wasn't about whether or not she was a good mother, but she was in a situation that was not conducive to being a healthy parent. And it was a pretty bitter custody battle, and it was in all the papers. There are articles in the New York Times and the Washington Post. Like, at the time, it was a very big deal because it was two dads. It was Mr. Bray and Mr. Sprecher were fighting to be able to see their kids and to say, like, we deserve custody, but because we've left this cult, we're not going to be able to have these kids. And actually, Dee Agee would not have been able to, Dee Agee Sprecher would not have been able to, she would not have been able to see her child if it weren't for that court ruling, because they were only given an hour a day. And the court ruling gave her more, and it gave the dad more every other weekend. It gave him more time. And so at the time in 1989, these two dads were living in an apartment together, trying to, as survivors of this cult, like they weren't sure what they were going to expect when they left. They were like, what's out there? Are we going to survive it? It's so long. They were brainwashed for so long. Were you going to say something?
No. Just listening. Fascinated.
It's fascinating. And the lucky thing is that both of those dads did get to have custody. They showed pictures of the rooms, which don't mean anything. And like I would post those pictures, but it's like, it's a kid's room in the 80s. You know what I mean? Like it's nothing. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. But it was like they got to have that. And if it weren't for those kids, they wouldn't have stayed in New York, but they got to, and then got to separate from that cult and actually be the fathers that they wanted to be. And the thing was, like with Mr. Sprecher, when he started to feel some kind of way, he wanted to be with her. He wanted to be with Dee Dee. He wanted to have a relationship with her and raise their kid. And Newton saw that. And so what did Newton do? He started to have an affair with her. And he was like, you're getting too attached. You're too focused. So and that was like, that was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. And of course, there's court, he testified in court and was like, none of these are true. This is just people who are getting paid to say things about us. This is not true. This is not true. This is not true. And then he's in a recording saying, like, you think you can get me? Nobody can get me. The mayor can't get me. Hitler couldn't get me. You can't get me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a different tune than what he was saying in court. But that recording was in the court. Like, they played it in court. And he was like, this is not a healthy situation. Eventually, Dee Dee did leave, but she got to erase that part of her history, and it's not mentioned at all. Read her obituary. There's a Facebook page remembering her. There's still you can see tributes to her art. There was a collection of her stuff shown. And that's okay. I mean, but everybody got out at some point, because it ended. And in 1991, Saul B. Newton, who was suffering from Alzheimer's at the time, in 1991, he died. And with his death, it all fell apart. That was it. There was no other charismatic leader to loom over them, even though he had Alzheimer's. Even though he had Alzheimer's, he was still the leader. But as soon as he died, it dissolved. And so from 1957 to 1991, the Sullivan Institute of Psychoanalysis existed, and it does not any longer.
That's a super, I mean, not to like glorify cults, but that's a super cool name. I really like that name.
Because it sounds legit. Right? Totally, yeah.
It sounds like somewhere that I would want to go.
Tell me about your mother. All right, everybody, that's my story.
Woo! That was good. That was very interesting. By the way, I think the magazine was just called New York Magazine.
That's it. Thank you.
I looked it up, but it was just literally New York Magazine.
I was like, that sounds too simple. It's probably something really, I don't know. Not in New York. I'm in Houston.
I am going to read the answers to the question of the week now that we have heard that story. Okay, if you forgot, the question of the week was like a predictable text, fill in the blank, talking shit about Scorpios. Now, here we go. Dev says, Libra, this is a great time to get a hold of yourself, but watch out for people who want to take a look at the other things that you need.
Interesting.
And then said, clearly I've been going through it.
Hey, Libra, me too. Yay. Love Dev. All right. Love you, girl. All right. Go.
Lauren says, Cancer, this month is a great time to see if your client can be in your business, but watch out for the people who have a lot to park on the internet. All right.
Park on the internet. I love it.
Brianne says, Leo, this month is a great time to have a great weekend, but watch out for the people who have to go. Laura, another Libra, says, Libra, this month is a great time to make it to the end of last year, but watch out for the people who have never seen the movie before, and they are very good at this one. Sarah says, Pisces, this month is a great time to see you guys, but watch out for the people who are doing good and not ready for the day. That would be me.
That would be me, lots of people. It is a really good month to see you guys. All right.
Mandy says, Taurus, this month is a great time to get together, but watch out for the people who are not going to be able to get it. Amen. Chuck says, Scorpio, this month is a great time to celebrate, but watch out for the people who are going to work, or who are going to, Scorpio, this month is a great time to celebrate, but watch out for the people who are doing this to work. Okay. I don't know what Joy is talking about, but she says, I started to hit send, but this would have caused a little ruckus. Stephanie, another Libra, says, Libra, this month is a great time to seek help, but watch out for people who have been doing the other stuff. I don't know what the other stuff is, Stephanie, but that's mighty interesting that your phone went to that. Melissa, a fellow Scorpio, this month is a great time to get a hold on your family for the next week, but watch out for the people who have a lot to say to you. Amen.
You know what, Melissa? Is that Melissa Diane?
Yes.
Yeah, she just had a new niece yesterday. New niece born yesterday. So yeah, it is a good week to hold on to your family.
Name, and I really don't want to butcher it because it looks very pretty, but I don't know how to say it. Arielle.
Ariel.
Ariel. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It looks really pretty. I just didn't want to mispronounce that. Aries, the month is a great time to go home, but watch out for the people who have a great weekend. Yeah, I don't like those people either. Amy, Scorpio. Oh, brilliant. I love Scorpios.
Brilliant Scorpios.
This month is a great time to see your everything, but watch out for the people who have been talking about to listen. Your phone is drunk. Fam, Cancer, this month is a great time to have, but watch out for the people who love.
Oh.
Ashley, Aries, this month is a great time to get back, but watch out for the people who have a job. Hey. Kim, Pisces, this month is a great time to get out to work and get a coffee, but watch out for the people who have a great time at work. I don't trust those people.
Never trust those people.
She didn't say that. I said that. I don't. Janelle said, I love this. Yes, I'm a Scorpio. I'm assuming she's just talking about your meme and not answering the question. But yes, Scorpios are the best. Noelle and Sagittarius, this month is a great time to see you guys, but watch out for the people who are not being so sweet.
Oh.
That would be the Scorpios.
That's a good one.
Again, I added that would be the Scorpios.
Nope.
She did not say that, so don't attack her. Carlene said, Aquarius, this month is a great time me to see if anyone else has any plans. I felt really drunk reading these. Any plans, but watch out for the people who have been doing the job for a few weeks now. We're almost done. Vanessa says, Leo, this is a great time to call, but watch out for the people who are acting like a drunk. Again, probably Scorpio. Stacy, Sagittarius, this month is a great time to be able to watch the movie, but watch out for people like me who have had very limited sleep. Amen, sister.
Oh, God,
amen.
Yes.
Kathy, Taurus, this month is a great time to stay on the ground, but we can all still fly kites at East Beach in Galveston on Sunday, October 17th for One Sky, One World. Seems very specific, Kathy.
That's really specific.
Another Kathy, right after that, Kathy. Sagittarius, this month is a great time to be able, and we can get you to the vaccine, but watch out for people who have been there are no good for the world. Right. And then finally, Ryan, Aquarius, this month is a great time to have you all together, but watch out for the people who love the us, love, and miss you. So those were the very strange and bizarre answers to the question of the week.
Everyone sounded drunk.
Everyone definitely sounded drunk. So yeah, that's what there is. So
Well, listen, everybody, thank you. You could always go back and give us your answers. We love to read them. I try not to read them before the show so I can enjoy them when Ashley reads them with her comments. And I love it. So please do go back and answer the questions if you haven't. And Ashley, tell them what's new.
If you have any question of the week suggestions or any story suggestions, please send them to our Facebook page or beer suggestions.
Specifically beer suggestions.
Yes. And we do have the website up. It has been a long time since we had a really good updated site. So, you can always look at that and play our latest episodes. It has links to all of the platforms we're on. You can leave us reviews, which would be really nice of you if you could leave us reviews. It doesn't have to be on our website. It can be on whatever platform you listen to. They pull it into our website. And that's really it. Next week, I don't know what I'm doing, but it will be great and exciting because, I celebrate Halloween every day, but especially every day of October. So...
Especially every day of October.
Especially every day of October.
So I am turning 45 on Monday. So all y'all wish me happy birthday. Send your girls some good vibes because I am feeling it. Also, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Find your local shelter, your local domestic violence, sexual assault agency. Find one that you can support. This is an important month. We're trying to raise awareness all over the country, all over the world. Find out what you can do because it seems like something that doesn't affect your community, but domestic violence does not know gender, does not know socioeconomic status, does not know whether or not you're white, black, brown, purple, yellow, green, does not care. It happens to everybody and it affects our community as a whole. It can affect your employees. It can affect the children that go to school with your children. It can affect so much. And you may not think about it, you may not see it, but it is happening. And numbers just in Harris County, domestic homicides have been going up. Our phones, the hotline has been ringing off the hook. It's happening and it continues to do so. We'd love to be put out of a job, but that is not likely. So please support your local domestic violence agency. We're doing the good work. We're trying to save lives and transform lives and to get kids, especially into a place where they can be safe, learn what healthy relationships are, and we'd love to have your support in doing that. And so wherever you are, find that place because they need your help.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Louis says yes.
Yes, you gotta do what Louis says.
Say it. So, okay, so until next week, Ashley's not sure what she's doing, but until next week, please be kind to one another. Send us pictures of your Halloween decorations. I'll put my decorations up. Ashley, you can't decorate.
Well, I'm still in a rental, so I don't have any decorations. I do have Halloween decorations around the office that I can post pictures of. And just real quick, my mother, Susan, just answered your question of the week.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, Scorpio, this month is a great time to send a new car, but watch out for the people who think they're going to be home. We're both Scorpios. So,
did she think my meme was funny? I thought it was pretty fun.
Probably. She probably thought it was great. I'm sure all Scorpios just found it hysterical. We'll all be laughing about it at our meeting later.
All right. We love you guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.